This is 2E0 Mike Tango returning.
Hi there, I'm Ben. I'm 2E0 Mike Tango, and I'm here with part 3 of my Idiot's Guide to Building an Allstar Node. Don't forget, right at the end of this video and running throughout this series is a competition to win yourself either an Allstar Node or all of the bits that you'll need to put an Allstar Node together yourself. So do go to the end of the video and enter that competition if you want to. It's free to enter and someone will win. So a shout out to two people that have really helped me put this video together. The first one is the good folk at hamvoip.org. I've cribbed a lot of their stuff and I find their website really, really helpful. It's also really in depth. So if you're a genius computer programmer, I'm personally not, but there's a lot on there that I think you'll find really interesting. And secondly, K1GMM, who's put up some really helpful YouTube videos on how to do this. Many of his bits of code and tips and tricks I've weaved into this video, so I'm really, really thankful to K1GMM. Do check out his YouTube channel and find his videos on doing the same process. And in today's episode, we're going to be setting up the Raspberry Pi. For this, you'll obviously need your Raspberry Pi, but to start with, you need one of these. This is a micro SD card, and we're going to write the image of HamVoip onto this so that we can use Allstar on our Raspberry Pi. You need to have at least, I think it's 8 gigabytes, but frankly, I always order 32 gig. That's plenty of space on the SD card for everything you might possibly need to put on there. And you need to have it a reasonably fast card, 10 megabits, something like that. You can get older, very slow ones. You need to avoid the very, very slow ones. And then what I do is I put this micro SD card into a full-size SD card to put in my computer. If you haven't got an SD card slot in your computer, you might need one of these. This is just a little USB interface so that the SD card can then go into a USB socket. Okay, so with the SD card ready to go in the computer, visit the Allstar Link website, sign yourself in or register if you're not signed up already, go on the portal, on node settings, and then continue. And in there you will find the opportunity to either view the nodes you've already got, or if you look in the middle at the top there, request a new node. So you can request one, and you can have up to 2 nodes. So I'm going to request my second node here. You'll notice my old call sign in there. I have just requested them to update it to my new call sign, so that train is in motion. They'll carry both of them over once they've received that request and acted upon it. So after you've submitted, there's going to be a wait of about 24 hours, it tells me. So you need to do this right at the start of the process, otherwise you're going to be twiddling your thumbs for a bit. And then once we've got that in play, we can do some other things while we wait for that to come through. So go on to Google and put in something like SD card formatter, find the top result. You just need something that can format an SD card totally, particularly if it's already got an image on it. You need to do that. So we install that and give permission, and well, you know how to install the program, but you can see it happening here in super speed. Call it whatever you want and format the volume. You'll see it's about 32 gig, this card. So that's all done. Now go on to hamvoip.org. This is where we're going to get the image for Allstar Asterisk, and you need to click on the download button. And this is really helpful paragraph. Probably want to read this. It talks about Disk Manager and PuTTY. We're actually going to download a couple of programs. So Win32 Disk Manager, get that one downloading. There's this weird 5-second timer going on that you just have to sort of be patient and wait for it to count down. I think that's probably an advertising thing. And then once that's downloading, also grab the Allstar image from that website, the latest image, although it does say that you'll need to do some updates once you install it. And also download PuTTY. If you Google PuTTY, this is a great program to save you basically having to use a keyboard, mouse and monitor on your Raspberry Pi. You can just do it remotely through your computer. So download PuTTY, and that just gives you an opportunity to use your Raspberry Pi with your existing keyboard, mouse and monitor. The other one I use is WinCP. This is to do some amends. So Google WinCP and download and install that. WinCP enables you to do the amends that you need to run Supermon. And Supermon is one of the ways that you can control your Raspberry Pi afterwards. So install PuTTY, install SCP, and once all there's done, PuTTY's already exists on this computer, so I've just repaired it to make sure it's got the latest version, and I think that's all of them done. So here we just have to install the last little bit. So once you've got the image downloaded, you need to unpack it, but this is where your computer will throw up loads of security issues because it's a classic way to get a virus in. There's the virus controller saying careful, 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 and you'll see there it says cannot be accessed twice. So it hasn't actually been able to unpack the image that time because my antivirus kicked in. Well done, AVG. So I'm going to have to do it a second time. This time the AVG knows not to stand in the way, and there are the two files that you need. One is a README. If you can't sleep at night, do read that file. And then the other one is the image itself. And using Win32 Disk Imager, you're going to write that image file onto the SD card. That yes to all was just because I'd already done it once and not done it properly because of the AVG kicking in. So anyway, write it to the file. This takes quite a few minutes to do. I've sped it up here just for ease of this video, but it took 4 or 5 minutes, I think. And this is just writing the image of the Allstar asterisk onto the SD card, ready for you to then transfer into your Raspberry Pi. So this is the operating system and all that it needs all in one place. You'll notice when you put the SD card back into the computer afterwards, it no longer looks like a 32GB SD card. That's because it's an image file. If you ever want to get that SD card back to normal again, you would have to reformat it using the program I've just shown you. Okay, so after that's done, what we're going to do is grab our project box and grab the Raspberry Pi and unpack the Raspberry Pi from out of the project box and situate it loosely. I'm not going to screw it down yet because of the Ethernet cable that we need just for the initial setup. So we need to plug the positive red wire into the pin at the very top right, and then you leave one gap of a pin, and the negative goes on the pin that's the third one down. So the second pin on the right hand column there is empty, as you can see. Then you put the Ethernet cable on. Obviously it only fits in one way, and whichever way you try it first is always the wrong way, and then you realize it was actually the right way after all. So you plug in your Ethernet cable. You've got the power on the right hand column there as you look at it, on pin number 1 and pin number 3. And then you need the micro SD card. So take it out of the big SD adapter, and it goes sort of in round the back and upside down. And it can be a little bit fiddly to get them in, but don't force them. They can obviously only go in one way, so don't force it. But it goes just in that little SD card holder there with the SanDisk logo facing down, as it were. And once that's in, you are ready to plug in your power supply. Just make sure that that purple wire doesn't touch your Raspberry Pi, because obviously that's got an additional few volts in it. That would fry the Raspberry Pi, so make sure that that's well out of the way. This is only a very temporary setup, just for a moment, so don't worry too much about it. You could of course just snip the end off that, or put some insulation tape on. So applying the 12 volts DC, turn the thing on, and hopefully some lights will start flashing. The red light there just tells you you've got power. The green light's the image reading. Next up, you need to go on your router. I use BT, so go on your BT router by putting in the IP address for the router, and then look for your network status and a full address list of everyone on there. I've had to log in as an administrator to do that, but once you've refreshed your list, you should be able to find a new device, which is your Raspberry Pi, and there's mine, fourth one down. And what we're going to do is change the IP address to be static rather than dynamic. That just makes it a lot easier to find and keeps it in the same place all of the time. So going in here, we need to say always use the same IP address, and then change it to one that you want it to be. Just make sure you don't make one that conflicts. So next up, go on to PuTTY. Put in the IP address of your Pi and the port. Initially, the port is going to be 222. So even though I'm going to change it to 223, your initial launch is going to be 222. You're going to log in. The username is root. The password initially is also root, and it's going to
open this protocol and you're going to click yes to update. This might take a little while just to download the latest updates onto the Asterisk system. And once it's downloaded them and installed them onto that SD card, then you've got the latest version of the program running. So this is obviously quite a few updates there. You're then going to have to power down and power up again and restart. As soon as you click restart, of course, PuTTY kicks you off because it can no longer speak to the Raspberry Pi that is in reboot mode. Once it's rebooted, go into PuTTY again, same settings, root, and then it's going to ask you to do system updates. Obviously no this time, but yes, run the first setup. First thing to do is to make up a new password. Instead of being root, put in a different password and repeat it. So you need to get your node number entered. That's the next step. The easiest way to find this is to go onto Allstar Link's website and log back in, go on portal, on node settings, and then find the node number that they've assigned you. You can see mine, it's got 222 at the end, so that's quite nice. By fluke, they've given me 53222, so pop that in. Is it a private node? You want to say no, and then it asks for your station call sign. So that's whatever your call sign is. So mine is 2E0BMT Mike Tango. And then it says, do you want to report the status? Well, that's up to you. That's a privacy thing. I put yes, just so that people can see when I'm using my node. Voice ID, I always say yes to that. That's just the report that it gives out every 15 minutes as a node. And then you're going to have to find which port it's on. Now the standard port is 4569. I'm going to change mine to 4568 simply because I've already got one on 4569, but just remember that, write it down. We're going to go with a semi-half duplex, and then you've got to enter your password. The way you find your password is click on your node number on the website and it will come up on that screen and enter it. I've obviously hidden it from view here, but once you've entered your password, it then says, do you want this? You put no, and you put no again for the USB config, because we're not quite ready for that yet. Go onto the Allstar website though and do a Control F and put your node number in and make sure that Allstar is now picking up your node, because it should be live online. There it is at the bottom of the list, 76 seconds live, so that's good. If you put your IP address of your node into a web browser, it should say this is just a test, and then if you put /Supermon after it, you get to Supermon. This is how we're going to control our node, so now we need to configure Supermon. So using the WinSCP that we've already downloaded, log onto your node using your IP address and port 222, and then username root, and then the password, whatever your password was, and then you get to this interface here. And double click on this, go up a level, and then go into etc to asterisk, and then you're looking down this list for rpt conf. This is the configuration file. Go right down to the very bottom of that, where you will find these elements about your node itself. Let me just zoom in on that. So you need to change this to your IP address of your node. So delete the 127.0.0.1 and put in whatever the IP address of your node is. Don't put my IP address in, that probably won't work. Although it might do, who knows? Give it a go. Or perhaps you've set it up on the exact same BT router and have got the same IP address. You're going to change this 199 to your own node number. And likewise at the start of that line there, change that to your own node number as well. Don't use my node number, because otherwise I won't be able to connect. And then you're going to enter a line in between these two nodes numbers here, which is going to be 53222 or whatever your node number is, space equals space radio at, and then you're going to enter your public IP address. So this is the IP address that your ISP has provided you, and then so after the public IP address you need a colon and then your port number. It would usually be 82, but I'm using 84, followed by a comma and the word none. Okay, then click the save button, top left, come out of this here, and then go into manager.conf next. And in manager.conf, right at the top there, you can see secret equals under the admin. Secret equals, you're going to put in a password and save it. I'm not showing you my password because I don't want you logging onto my node. Upper level and find httpd as the next folder, and into conf, and then into httpd.conf. And inside this file, you're going to go down until you find this bit that says listen 80. And this is where you're going to add whatever port you've just added. So in my case, it's going to be listen 84. So if you used 80, 82, 84, just add that in there. And remember that number there. We are going to need it one more time. Then go up and up again and go down into SRV and into HTTP, and then Supermon. Supermon's what we're going to use to control this node, and then allmon.ini at the top there. Change this 1998 to your node number, and then see where it says password. Enter whatever your password was. I've moved it off the screen. Once you put your password in, that password you've just created, click save, and then exit out of that. Then you're back here. One more thing to do is then to come out of that, saving it on the way out, rebooting PuTTY, and now you're on PuTTY. Load into your node. You should be getting familiar with doing this. Root password is whatever the password is that you've already set, so that you load into PuTTY, and then you're going to go on this list down to number 9, start bath shell, and then here you're going to write cd space / srv / http / Supermon, and then it should look at something like that. So you're now in the Supermon directory of HTTP SRV, and you're going to write rm space dot htpasswd and press enter, and then you need to press Y and then enter. I've done that wrong, so let me type it in again. So press enter and then Y, enter, and it says removed password. That's good. And then you're going to type this in, httpasswd space hyphen lowercase c capital B space dot httpasswd space admin, and then it's going to ask you to put in a password and repeat it. Put in a password and repeat it. That's the same password we've just set up in the WinSCP stuff, and then it says adding password, and you are done. You can type the word exit and exit out of this interface here, and once you've exited out, it's probably best just to power down. So power cycle the USB reboot, and once you've rebooted, you should be able to then put your IP address / Supermon into a web browser, come to Supermon, and then log in using admin and then whatever the password is that you've just selected. And once you've logged in, if you then click your node number top left, you should have lots of buttons, and you can now control your node using Supermon. Going back into PuTTY, log in root and password, as you've done about 1 million times now, and we're going to set up the Wi-Fi. So configure the Wi-Fi interface. You're going to do a little search for your SSID and or enter it manually. I'm just searching for mine. I find my SSID and I then load it, put in the password. Come on, there it is. Freedom. Put in the password and then go yes. And at this point, you will probably end up with a different IP address. So you might need to go back into Supermon and change your IP address, or you can change it in here. Do as you please, but call your device something in your router and make a note of the IP address. And then this is where you're going to have to do some port forwarding. So usually speaking, the top 3 boxes there is what you would usually need. That's the first node that I made. So the 4569 port is a UDP port forward. 222, that is of course the port that you're accessing your node on. That's a TCP forward, so 222 becomes 222. And then listening for incoming stuff on port 82. So that's what you would usually do. However, my node Obviously they can't exist on the same thing, so I've used the bottom 3, which is why I've had to change mine to 4568 rather than the standard 4569. It's why I've had to change my port to 223 rather than 222, and it's why I've had to change my listening onto port 84. I hope that makes sense on the port forwarding front, but you need to have those ports forwarded. And then just make sure it works. Go back onto your web browser using your new IP address /Supermon and stick in your username and password, and ta-da, it seems to work.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget that I've got a competition running, so if you want to win yourself either an Allstar Node or all of the things that you need to build an Allstar Node, do enter the competition at the end of this video. If you've enjoyed this video, click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can catch part 4 when that comes out in just a few days' time. I'm Ben, I'm 2E0 Bravo Mike Tango, off and clear, 7-3.
This is 2E0 Bravo Mike Tango returning.